What I wanted to do tonight was a bit of a restorative yoga session with a little bit of breathing going on. Can't beat a bit of breathing. Highly recommend it. And just move back a bit more. And really, and sort of a bit of a contemplative session as well, because there's a few things that I've been pondering recently, and that would be quite nice to sort of practice. And these are things that I've sort of, after all these years, I always seem to come back to these concepts, and so we'll talk about these during the session. But the first one really is this concept of Ishvara Pranidhanam. And this sort of roughly translates as laying all of one's actions at the foot of the divine. So whatever that means for you, so it's laying one's actions at the foot of the divine, and really just to sort of. So tonight's practice, whatever you consider is to be the divine, and some people, don't believe in all this mumbo jumbo, and that's fine. But for some people, it's their own consciousness and their own subconsciousness. So, and in fact, one of the concepts in the Advaita philosophy, which is all is one essentially, is that we are, material things, us as entities, we are finite expression of the infinite consciousness, and so it's a finite expression. So you've got pure consciousness which runs throughout the universe, and creation beyond, and that, and so that is an infinite consciousness, but we're finite expressions of that. So if, quite simply, if we, bow to the divine, if we pray to the divine, pray to God or whatever, then actually we're praying to ourselves. And so it's quite a nice practice actually to sort of, I quite like to, I light a candle and I kind of just do a bit of that, and you could be praying. You're not necessarily bowing to a separate entity. You're actually bowing back to yourself, and so it could be to the subconscious. So tonight's practice, let's just be that. Whatever your belief is, it's dedicated to the divine, and a really kind of liberating thing as well, I find, is that I read somewhere that even if you dedicate your suffering to the divine, so that's all actions, because this links into another principle, which is in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, Yoga Chittavritti Nirodha, and it's a concept which I've been playing around in my head for a long time. It's a second sutra of this, and it's got various translations, as all these Sanskrit translations have, but it's it's about controlling one's thoughts. So in yoga they liken it to a pond, that a still mind is like a still pond, but doesn't say still for long, because somebody's always lobbing stones in there. Can't beat chucking a stone in a still pond. That's what they're for, after all. So this thing about having creating some kind of stillness in the mind is something else, and it's quite difficult to create stillness in the mind because the thoughts keep coming. We don't really need to think as much as we do, but regardless of that, they just keep on giving. It's a gift that never stops. And one of the things that I find useful is is you can't stop the thoughts. Maybe the thoughts will eventually stop themselves, but it's creating some space around those thoughts, and that creating space around the thoughts is that's got a lot of basis around tantra. So yeah, that's just a few random thoughts there. Check it out, have a ponder. But tonight's session, yeah. So this thing about just laying it out to something other than you, and use it as an act of service. So let's just start though by what we're going to do is we're going to stand up first of all, and I'm going to have to get these specs on, because I really can't. That's better. Can't be doing with seeing a blurred screen. And so let's just stand nice and tall. And I know that I quite often like to have a lie down actually at the beginning of the session, but there's going to be plenty of time to lie down later on. And if this has an effect, is that better? Oh, that's quite nice, isn't it? So and there was light. So yeah, standing nice and tall, and you'll see that, just check that your feet are parallel, just looking down towards the feet and checking that the legs are parallel, even weight distribution. And just rocking backwards and forwards a couple of times just to get an idea of where that weight is, and see if we can, we don't want the weight fully back, with the toes lifted, but we don't want the weight fully forward. It's somewhere in between. So it's all like chamomile tea I've been drinking. I think somebody's spiked it with something. So it's having that equal weight distribution in the front and the back. And then let's just starting to circle around as well. So as we circle, and just imagine the head is reaching up towards the ceiling. There's a crayon strapped to the head, and you're drawing a circle on that ceiling. But being mindful, maybe even closing the eyes if that's okay with you, being mindful of the weights as it moves from one side to the toes, to the other side, back to the heels. And I quite like to do this, and just because it takes a little bit of an effort to start, but once you start, there's like a little bit of a spiraling energy sensor that goes up out the crown of the head, and maybe we get trapped in that vortex. Who knows? And then gradually just put the brakes on that and just coming into stillness. And so just allowing the shoulders, just bringing the shoulders up to start with, as high as they'll come. And then release. Then the crown of the head reaches up towards the ceiling. So keeping the shoulders releasing down, but this let's have a little nod to the Alexander technique here, where we're going to make sure that weight is nice and evenly spread, standing nice and tall, but sort of smiling, sort of opening up through the clavicles. And the other thing that sticks in my mind from last week, but I've got no experience of this, by the way. But apparently, you got to imagine a cross your heart bra. So, but I've never tried it myself, but honestly. So just sort of really see if you can open up from one hip opposites to the opposite shoulder, and then the other hip to the other shoulder. So it's quite a nice little thing to do, and even just placing the hands there and just feeling that smile right from the hip to the shoulder. It's quite good actually. And then just stand nice and tall, and just for a few moments now, we're not going to stay here for too much longer. It's going to close the eyes and just breathe. Enjoy the breath as you growing tall with the in-breath, and then with the exhale, just feeling the weight coming down through the soles of the feet. So a really nice thing to do is to stop. Isn't it so difficult to stop, really? But when you do, it's quite nice. And we kind of keeping the brain a little bit occupied by doing these things as well. So hopefully not drifting off. But if we do drift off into any thoughts, then it's coming back to the center. And so with this concept of Ishvara Pranidhanam, sort of laying all of the actions, laying all of the woes as well, suffering at the foot of the divine, and seeing what can be transformed from there. So just releasing the chin down towards the chest, open the eyes, and lifting the gaze. Okay, just giving yourself a little bit of a shake off there, just a little bit of a movement, and that's just quite like a bit of this hip swinging. It's quite nice. Just to ease off. Simple movements. And then from here, we're just going to do this very casual sun salutation. So essentially, nice and soft through the knees. We're not got very, we're not lifting the kneecaps, and we're kind of nice and soft and kind of bouncy. And then just bringing the hands into this prayer position. And then from there, taking a breath in and a breath out. And as you breathe in, just reaching up above the head, very casual reach up, looking towards the hands. Exhale, a little bit of a back bend. Inhale, lifting all the way up. And as you exhale, leading with the elbows, coming all the way down. Nice soft knees. Release all the way down. The knees are bent enough so the belly's resting on the thighs. The head is released. And then as you inhale, the backs of the hands come together and you breathe in all the way in as you come up and then back into this prayer position. Let's do a few of those together. So just breathing in. Exhale, lifting and open the chest. Really nice feeling, lifting the chest. Inhale, up. Exhale, leading with the elbows. Nice soft knees. Feeling this into the lower back. Releasing the head. And then as you breathe in, the backs of the hands come together. And then into prayer position. So let's just breathe, just flowing with this, just enjoying every movement, noticing how this feels in the body. Exhale as you open the chest, lifting the sternum. Inhale up. Exhale as you lead with the elbows and soft knees all the way down. So this finite expression of consciousness is really starting to connect again with this infinite consciousness. It's part of this continuum as we just enjoying the breath, enjoying the movements, and just being present really in this movement. And then, so next time you come with the palms come together, just make this your last one. So breathing in, just last one, and we're going to start to move it on a little bit. Exhale, open the chest. Inhale up. Release. Yeah, and even it's quite nice to do this with the eyes closed. If you really want to turn it into quite meditative as it is actually. And then hands back into prayer position. when you're ready. Okay, so we're going to come down onto the knees now. And so we're going to be on all fours. And let's just rocking backwards, forwards a few times. So I always quite like to have my hands in front of the shoulders, so not too much of a, I don't like 90-degree angles on my wrists particularly. And then from there, we're going to just come into a wide-legged child's pose. So bringing the big toes together and separating the knees as wide as possible. So knees separate as wide as they'll go. So sitting back onto the heels if you can, and then just coming down onto the elbows and then down onto either on the forehead is on the floor, or you can stack the fists on top of each other, or just stack the hands on top of each other, palms. And then just enjoy that opening. So just feeling where that is affecting the body. Just maybe you can become aware of the sacrum. So really enjoying that feeling in the sacrum. It's really breathing into that space. Breathing into the back of the heart. And as you inhale, just lifting up the chest slightly and lengthen the front of the body, and then release down again. So it's about creating this space in the spine. And those thoughts that continually occurring in the mind, just visualizing those with every exhalation, just coming out of the eyebrow center, right down into the ground. With every exhalation, just releasing those thoughts, that energy down. And then from there, let's just come up slightly and then just bringing the knees to hip width apart. And let's just do a little bit of a cat-cow tilt here, nice and gentle. Cat-cow, exhale, arching the back. Inhale, lifting the tailbone, lifting the chest. So just move backwards and forwards, just enjoying this really simple movement. And then from there, next time you come up onto all fours, we're going to tuck the toes under and then press back into downward facing dog. So just pressing back into downward facing dog and then start to walk out the dog. So right side, left side, just enjoying this opening in the backs of the legs. As you press the heels down, maybe you can feel into the calves, feel into the hamstrings, hips moving side to side. The tailbone is moving backwards and upwards. It's a really nice way to just open and get some space and length in the spine. And then coming up onto the tiptoes momentarily. And then pressing both heels down. And then just releasing the knees down to the ground. And then resting back into child's pose. Just breathing deeply, back of the heart, side of the ribs. You can bring the hands by the side of the feet if you wanted to, with the shoulders over the knees. So just breathing deeply, feeling that opening across the rib cage. Expansive inside the lungs. And then from there, let's just reach forward with both hands And we're going to come up onto all fours and just do a nice simple step forward with that right foot. Step forward with the right foot. And then maybe you could even walk that left foot back a little bit. So keeping all of the weight through that right big toe. So we're not letting the knee splay out to the side. We can really sort of bring that weight into the big toe. So the knee is over the ankle. And then from there, let's just reach up. But again, this really nice sort of, we're not kind of, we're sort of got this relaxed sort of reach up. Palms are sort of facing towards each other, lifting up to the chest, maybe even looking up between the hands. Open up through the chest and release from there. And let's just bring that right knee back, and then the left foot comes forward and walking that right knee back as far as it'll go. So bringing all the weight into the left big toe. And then lift. I quite like to lift up through the chest, but with the fingers down. And then, like Geronimo, we have lift off. Sinking down below the waist, lifting up above the waist, palms of the hands facing to each other. Maybe you can even look towards the hands, but keeping the back of the neck nice and long. We're not putting any tension in the back of the neck. And then release from there. And let's take a little step forward. So both feet come together. Sorry, hip width apart. And then we're in this ragdoll forward bend. And then engaging thighs, the glutes, the pelvic floor, the lower abdomen, and then lift, coming all the way up. I'm just going to try this little Utkatasana movement. So with Utkatasana, the feet are parallel, legs are parallel. There's a bend in the knees, and we can just look down and we can see the toes beyond the knees. So we're trying to get the knees as far back as possible. And then the backside kind of sticks out maybe naturally, but we tuck the tailbone under a little bit. And then we can either reach up or reach forward, depending on how energetic you're feeling. Palms together, palms facing each other, whichever one you want to do. And then just checking out this weight distribution, right side, left side. It's a great posture just to do this. I'm sort of right-handed, so my right leg is always kind of dominant, always trying to take control, and the left leg is always a bit more relaxed about things. And so yeah, we like to swap it around a bit, lead with the left leg a little bit, and then just release. So again, just taking a few moments here just to, we held that Utkatasana for a few breaths, but even in that short amount of time, I could certainly feel my heart rate increase. I could feel a bit of heat increase. It definitely wasn't an anxiety attack. I know that's what you're thinking, but no, I drink too much chamomile tea for that. Just taking a note, just really connecting with the body once more. And then connecting with the body, maybe you'll notice the shoulders, how the shoulders feeling. One shoulder sort of higher than the other, just checking that out. Where is the tension? Maybe the knees locked, maybe you can soften the knees. Maybe the hands, just waving the fingers around a little bit. Just a little time to notice these habitual physical things that we do to ourselves. Soften through the belly as we breathe. Soften through the crown of the head. And then from there, let's just come down onto the floor. It's coming down onto the floor. Okay. And it's going to bring the soles of the feet together. And then, so soles of the feet together. And then, if you can, just nudge your buttocks towards the knees. Not towards the knees, but feet. And then just come down onto the back. So easing yourself down into Supta Baddha Konasana. So we're in this kind of position. And then once you're down there, this is where a belt comes in handy, because you could always, you can't reach the legs, a belt is always good to hook around the ankles and just bring them in towards the body. And then just bringing the head down onto the floor and just lie there with the palms facing upwards. And so having awareness of obviously the hip joints. How does that feel? We're not going to stay here for too long, maybe about a minute or so. But just get a sense of how the hip joints are feeling, and just using the breath. So every exhalation, the knees just release a little bit, the hips open. Maybe you can notice some resistance in the hip joints, so that the muscles around there trying to contract. But the meditation essentially is to use the exhalation to release, and the inhalation finds space in the whole of the body. So being aware of any sensations in the hips, and be present with those sensations. That's that physical, could be sort of a little bit of a challenging sensation you might be feeling, but be present with it. Don't avert the eyes or avert the awareness. Just be with it. So Supta Baddha Konasana, really great posture. And then let's come out of that though. So by closing the knees together, using the hands, so placing the hands on the outer edges of the knees, and then closing the knees together like they're a big book, just bringing them together, and then hugging the knees in towards the chest, and then massaging the lower back onto the ground by moving the knees from side to side a few times. And from there, keeping the hands around the right knee, and we're going to straighten that left leg along the ground. So straighten that left leg along the ground. So we've got this single leg lock. Just noticing the effect that has on the body, just breathing in, breathing out. So in any of these postures, it's about 5 or so breaths, about 30 seconds worth if the breath is long enough. And then just bringing that left knee in towards the chest and holding around the left knee and straightening the right leg along the ground. So we're just coming onto the other side in this single leg lock. And keep both feet active as well, by the way. So all the toes are pointing up towards the ceiling. Breathing in, breathing out. And once you've done your 5 or so breaths on that side. And let's just bring both knees in towards the chest. And we're going to just release the hips a little bit and a bit more. So just placing the hands on the knees with the fingers pointing towards the toes. And then from there, just separating the knees out wide. And then starting to circle the knees round. So making nice big circles with the knees. Just demonstrate that if it's not clear, but yeah, circling the knees. And really by doing this, you can feel into the hip joints as you do that. So it's just a way of getting a sense of how those hip joints are feeling. That ball and socket joint is not often used in all its dimensions. It's often used just to move backwards and forwards as we're walking or running or whatever. And then starting to circle the knees in the opposite direction once they're together. Coordinating this movement with the breath if you can, however that works for you. But generally speaking, as the body opens, it's a breath in. As the body closes down, it's a breath out. So whatever that means for you in this posture. And then from there, let's just, next time the knees are together, let's just release the feet down onto the ground. And having so the knees are bent and the feet are mat width apart. And bringing the arms out to the side. So nice wide out to the side, shoulder height. And then taking a breath in. And as you exhale, releasing those knees down to the right. Inhale up and over to the left. So just moving those knees backwards and forwards, right to left with the breath. So inhale up, exhale down. And with the feet as wide as they'll go, really about mat width wide, you'll probably feel this into the hips. Again, I quite like this. Never ceases to amaze me how the position of the feet, how wide they are, can affect where the posture affects the body. And then next time the knees have been on the left side, then bring them up to the middle. And let's just bring in the feet so that they're hip width apart. Just go hip width tonight. So feet hip width apart. And then exhale them down to the right. Inhaling up and then exhaling down to the left. So again, noticing how this affects, maybe feel it more into the lower back now with the feet a little bit closer together. And if you wanted to move it on actually straight away, then you could just bring both the feet together and the knees together. And that's a bit more intense, but if you've got there's any twinging going on in the back, then obviously don't do that. It's your body. It's your own finite expression of consciousness. That slips off the tongue, doesn't it? Just enjoying this movement. And with the arms out wide, it also gives the chance for the chest to be open. I quite like to, anything really, as far as I'm concerned, to open the chest up a little bit. Just give a little bit of space for that joy to emanate. And then next time the knees are on the left, and just bring them up. And then just hugging the knees into the chest. So you've got two choices here. You can either come into a seated meditation, and we've got about 20 minutes to go this session. So what I tend to do is after about 10 minutes, I'll invite you to lie down if you wanted to, but do feel free to stay seated. I'm a big fan of the meditation. Seated meditation, that works for me. So yeah, just do get yourself comfortable. So the trick is, as you all know, you're all experienced sitters, and but if there's any discomfort, don't be that. The discomfort distracts from the meditation, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I could have never have been a medieval monk wearing a Hessian vest. That's there's enough suffering going on without creating it, as far as I'm concerned. So any discomfort, please, take your discomfort elsewhere, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, let's find that connection with the ground. And we're just going to do it's actually a little pranayama exercise, which we're going to weave into this meditation. So as always, sitting nice and tall, crown of the head, just checking the crown of the head is lifted, but also just check that you're not throwing the head back. So if anything, another thing I learned from this Alexander technique is this. They talked about having a Pinocchio nose, and the Pinocchio nose points down towards the belly button, sort of thing. But not too much down, I don't think. But yeah, so chin tucked in a little bit. So softening through the crown of the head. The eyes closed if they're not already closed. So it starts to bring the awareness more internal. Softening through the forehead. Through the whole of the face. Bringing the awareness into the mouth. And especially the roof of the mouth. And if you can, just imagine or visualize or actually soften the roof of the mouth. If you wanted to adopt Kachari Mudra, that's fine too. So Kachari Mudra is when you put the tip of the tongue on the soft palate of the roof of the mouth. And if the tongue, at first the tongue aches, but just keep coming back to it. It's like anything, it's just a little bit of practice. So Kachari Mudra, if you wanted to. And also just slightly raise the eyebrows. Slightly raise, activate the eyebrows. It helps to, or it's said to activate the fontanelle, the point around the Sahasrara chakra. And then just soften, now being aware of the throat, the shoulders. For every exhalation, just feel that release as we quickly just come through the body. Elbows, wrists, and hands. The upper back and lower back. Being aware of the breath softening through the chest, the navel. Down into the groin, buttocks, the thighs, knees, lower legs, ankles, and feet. So have that whole body awareness. And then just bring the awareness to the breath. And have the awareness now as well on the eyebrow center. And sometimes if you just wet the end of a finger, the middle finger maybe, and then just find that connection, just press into the brow center momentarily. Just give it a little bit of a wiggle and then remove the finger, just having that awareness there. So as you breathe in, just be aware of the breath coming up through the left nostril to the eyebrow center. And then back down through the left nostril. So the in-breath, just an out-breath. Just being especially aware of the left side, the left nostril. So we're creating one side of a triangle. In the left nostril to the brow center, and the brow center to the left nostril. And next time the breath is at the brow center, the awareness of the breath at the brow center, and just breathe out, or being aware of the breath moving out of the right nostril. As you breathe in, it comes in through the right, and then back out through the right. So we're all beings of energy, and sometimes we've got this masculine and feminine energy. So the masculine energy, that sort of whatever masculine energy means to you, I won't go into that, but sometimes we can be a bit masculine, and sometimes we're feeling a bit feminine, and sometimes we can need to balance that out. So just simply having an awareness on the nostrils helps do that. So if there's too much brain activity, then maybe that's a bit of the masculine side of things. I don't know. It's not a gender specific thing, by the way. Don't report me to the Equal Rights Commission. So next time the awareness now is on the brow center, exhale through the left nostril, then inhale through the left and exhale through the right. Inhale through the right and exhale through the left. So just creating that two sides of that triangle now. So the triangle starts at the left nostril, comes up to the brow center and down to the right nostril. And whichever side you're breathing out of now, just let the breath awareness extend all the way down to your knee. And then as you breathe in, it comes all the way up from the knee the center and out through the opposite nostril. So just making that bigger triangle. So you can either stay seated, or if you wanted to come down onto your back now to Shavasana, that's fine, just whatever you want to do. But without disturbing yourself too much, and then just bring the awareness back to this alternate nostril breathing without closing the nostrils with the hand fingers. So. And next time you breathe in through the left side, just breathe in for 4 ohms. So it's om, 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 om. Just say it internally. And as you exhale, see if you can breathe out for, first of all, 4 ohms or 6 ohms to start, whichever suits you. If you can develop the exhalation up to 8 ohms. So I quite like to om rather than count. So it turns it into like a japa japa type practice rather than an accountancy practice. And maybe you'll even notice the pause between the inhalation and the exhalation, and the exhalation and the inhalation, just allowing that pause to whatever that natural pause is. We're not forcing anything. And if there is a natural pause between the inhalation and exhalation, just resting the awareness on that space that's created there. So you can either just be internally quiet during that pause between the inhalation and exhalation and inhalation, or if you wanted to, maybe you want to experiment by continuing with the Om Japa. It's really personal thing. It's a personal preference, and it's what works for you. So if the mind starts to wander, just where is the mind right now? It's quite occupied with the Be continuing with the Om Japa, with the breath, tracing it from that little triangle which has been created, but the mind is still seeking something else. Just gently bring it back. In this way, we start to control those fluctuations in the mind stuff, which is discussed in the second sutra of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, Yoga Chitta Vritti Virodha. The restraint of modifications of the mind stuff is yoga. Or put it more bluntly, yoga is mind control. Taming those wild horses. There really is no need to continuously think, but we do. So there's a lot of talk. It's a bit of a cliche, really, for yoga circles. I think it's about being in the moment, being present in the here and now, and that's really a bit of a pithy little statement, which can be quite difficult, if not impossible, to achieve at times. But we can simply try to practice but being present in the here and now, I find that this split second, this nanosecond, microsecond, it's quite a difficult target to reach. And I prefer the one of the sayings of Jesus actually on this matter. And what he said is, because he made the target a bit broader. I'm all for making, if you start playing darts, you don't go for bullseye first of all. First thing you want to get is to hit the board. And what was said there is, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. So let's not be too specific on the here and now thing. Let's just not worry about tomorrow. Let's be present today. So that really is a genius actually move there. Matthew 6:34 for anybody who's interested, and it's about really ultimately starting to shift the awareness on towards the present moment, but starting from a very broad platform. Let's hit the dartboard first, before we enter the pub darts team. That's So if you're still with the breath, and next time you breathe out of the right nostril, then just release that practice. So if you've been practicing the Om Japa as well, so we've got this hopefully a little bit more space and we created a bit of space to the asana in the physical body and that simple breath, a little bit of space in the mind. And from that spaciousness, just get a sense that the universal sound, the Om, is vibrating inside. And then from that internal vibration, we're going to chant 3 Oms together. So take a big breath in. Breathing in. And one more breath in. We've created that physical vibration. Maybe you can feel it resonating in the body. It kind of feels purifying in the body and in the mind. And then just lowering the chin to the chest. Open the eyes. And lifting the gaze. So, well, thanks for coming to the session. Hope you enjoyed it. It's yeah, it wouldn't have been the same without you.